What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to the show. So now if you can hear my voice, you understand that I sound a little different, and that's because I'm a little sick. And this generally happens when I travel, usually because of jet lag, just being on a plane for a long period of time. Sometimes I get a little cold, and that's what I have right now. But I've lost my voice as well. And so today is the first day that it's kind of come back. Luckily, I shot a video. The video that I posted yesterday, I shot that the day before because I would not have been able to shoot a video yesterday. So anyway, what I want to talk about today is there are actually two things that I want to talk about in this video. The first thing I want to talk about is President Biden is now open to a filibuster when it comes to Roe versus Wade. So that's good. And I'm going to tell you why it's good. And it's not just because of Roe versus Wade, but it's because of the precedent that it's setting. The next thing I want to talk about is we have an election coming very, very soon, okay, in November. And so people are now trying to figure out who they're going to vote for. Now, I would never tell you who to vote for, but I'm going to tell you the platform. When it comes to Social Security, I think it's important for us to know what Democrats want to do with Social Security and what Republicans want to do with Social Security, because it's different. It's not the same. And so if you're thinking, well, we're just going to vote all these people out because they're not doing anything, well, you might be voting them out because they're not doing anything, but some might want to do something, but they don't have the power to do it because they don't have the numbers. And so if you vote them out and you vote a whole new group of people in, we might be looking at the same situation. So we're going to talk about that. But first off, on this channel, we talk about money and we talk about the financial struggles that Americans are facing today. If that sounds like something interesting to you, please subscribe to the channel and hit that little bell notification. That way you get notified anytime we put out a video. And like always, if you see my name and a picture of me in the comment section, make sure you see a check mark next to my name. That check mark signifies that it's me. If you do not see that check mark, it's not me. It's someone trying to impersonate me. Okay, so the first thing I want to talk about, President Biden, he was in a press conference earlier, and he basically said that he is on board when it comes to the filibuster, okay, getting rid of the filibuster, doing away with it for this situation. And hopefully they can get rid of the filibuster in the future. They can get rid of it altogether because it is holding up a lot. In the Senate, you need 60 votes, okay? The only way that you don't need the 60 votes is if you go through reconciliation, but you can only do one reconciliation bill per year. And so when it comes to, let's say if it was a standalone bill and they wanted to get that passed, they need the 60 votes. And this is where the problem is, because you have 50 Democrats and 50 Republicans. And the Republicans, for the most part, are not going along with anything that the Democrats want to do. Even if they were to come together with some type of a bipartisan bill, you still need to meet that 60 vote threshold, which is very, very hard. Okay, so getting rid of the filibuster would get rid of that. That would mean that you can't have senators, and they don't even do this anymore. I would be for, just to start, before the physical filibuster, which means that if you want a filibuster, if you want to hold up a vote, then you need to go on the Senate floor to hold that vote up. They don't have to do that anymore. And so you start putting them on the floor and having them there for 8 hours, 16 hours, 24 hours, they're just going to give up. But the way our system works now is they don't even have to do that. And so because they don't have to do that, it's easy to filibuster any bill that comes forward. But it looks like President Biden is now on board for this. So let's see if he can get some support from the senators, because that's what you really need. Okay, you're going to really need. Senator Manchin is one that everyone needs to watch because he is opposed to doing anything with the filibuster. Okay, he wants to keep that in place. But the problem is, when it comes to the filibuster, is the American people, they vote for politicians because they want them to do something. And when we start looking at certain situations, just like Roe versus Wade, and we look at other situations that are out there where the vast majority of the American people are for Roe versus Wade, and they're for Build Back Better, and some of the other stuff that's out there, why are these politicians holding these bills up? Because if you're representing us, then you should be going back to your districts like they are right now because they're on recess. Go back to your districts, find out what they need and what they want, and then relay that to the Senate and the House. But that's not what's going on. You have politicians going at it alone, doing their thing. They don't care what the numbers say. They don't care what the constituents are asking for. And we saw this with the gun reform. Okay, finally they were able to get something through when it comes to gun reform. But the only problem is a lot of what they got through is stuff that it was a no-brainer, and some of the other stuff that they didn't get through had major support from the people, the American people, but it didn't go anywhere. And so getting rid of the filibuster would put the Senate in a position where, look, majority rules. And that's what a democracy is. That's what a democracy should be. You're going to start losing the faith of the American people if you have these bills that are very, very popular. Another popular bill or another popular reform is Social Security. Very popular among the American people. But guess what? It's not going anywhere. And it's not going anywhere because you have Democrats and you have Republicans fighting back and forth. Democrats want to expand Social Security. Republicans don't want to do that. Okay, so that transitions me into the election, midterm election. Okay, so when it comes down to Social Security and Social Security reform, we know that Social Security will run out of the trust fund money in about 12 years. And so what they need to do is they need to reform that. And because they need to reform that, Democrats don't want to just reform it. They want to reform it and they want to expand Social Security. Okay, they're talking about right now $2,400 boost for Social Security because it's gotten to a point now where the money that people are receiving on average is not enough to sustain them. And so that's why they want to expand Social Security. So that's what the Democrats want to do. They want to tax the rich. Okay, they want to open up a new bracket. So basically, if you make $147,000 or less, you pay into the payroll tax. But any money that you make over $147,000, you don't have to pay taxes on that. Okay, you don't have to pay the payroll tax on that. And so what they want to do, what Democrats want to do, is they want to increase that. So if you, let's say you're making $250,000 or more, then you're going to have to pay that payroll tax again. So that's what they want to do. Now, what Republicans want to do, and this is only because we have a few Republican politicians that have come out and said what they want to do, they basically want to raise the retirement age. So for collecting Social Security, right now it's 66 or 67, depending on when you were born. They want to raise that to 69 or 70. Okay, I just did a video a couple of days ago where I talked about the fact that the life expectancy, the average life expectancy is 78. And so now what Republicans want to do is they want to raise that limit to when you can receive Social Security to 70. And if they raise the limit to 70, then there's probably going to be another little bonus. So if you wait until you're 72, you could probably get even more. And so that's how Republicans want to tackle the Social Security reform. And they only want to tackle the trust fund money. They don't want to do any expansion. Okay, so the money will stay the same. It's just you're not going to be able to get it until you're a few years older. And so this is not good. Okay, and you see there's two big different sides when it comes to Social Security, when it comes to the Social Security debate. Now, I've heard a lot of people say, we're just going to vote everybody out. It's President Biden's fault. It's the Democrats' fault. They couldn't get anything done. We put them in office, and they didn't do anything, so now we're going to vote in all Republican, or we're going to vote them out and vote someone else in, I guess. Well, the problem with that is Republicans don't want to do anything when it comes to Social Security and a lot of other things, and they have not put a platform forward yet. So we don't know what they want to do when it comes to certain other issues that we're facing right now with inflation and with gas prices and all that. So when it comes down to it, if you go ahead and say, yeah, let's get rid of all the Democrats, okay, let's get rid of them all. President Biden, obviously, he's not going to be running again for another couple of years. But when it comes to everyone else, all the other Democrats in the House and some of the Democrats in the Senate, let's get rid of all them. Well, then now you're going to have Republicans in power. And when you have Republicans in power, Social Security reform is not going to be the same. They're not going to be talking about the same things. There won't be any expansion. They won't be talking about expansion anymore. That will be off the table. And now the American people who are receiving Social Security are going to be looking at a situation where it's only going to be raising the age limit and maybe cutting off some Social Security for people who are making more money. When I say cutting them off, so giving them a smaller portion of Social Security, having them qualify for a smaller amount of Social Security, which the reality is, if you're wealthy, you're probably not going to be relying on Social Security. Republicans have talked nothing about Medicare and reforming Medicare. That's another big issue that needs to be addressed. How do we reform Medicare? Do we lower prescription medication, which is something that's been talked a lot about by Democrats, by Senator Bernie Sanders and others? So when it comes down to it, there's a huge difference between what the Democrats want to do when it comes to Social Security and what the Republicans want to do when it comes to Social Security. So the easy answer is not just to say, let's just vote everybody out because they didn't do anything. The answer is to say, hey, let's look at each individual politician and see if we support them. Okay, and then if we support them, vote for them. If they like Social Security expansion and you like Social Security expansion, vote for that person. If they don't like Social Security expansion, then vote for someone else. But that's the way we should be looking at this. We shouldn't be just looking at a blanket, hey, let's just get everyone out of office because they're not doing anything. Because we've seen just over the last couple of years that I've been doing videos, you've seen politicians. It might be just one politician, Senator Manchin, holding up everything. Or it could be the Republicans, the 50 Republican senators holding up everything because they don't want to move forward with legislation. You don't have to have a lot of politicians that are opposed to some of this stuff. Sometimes you only need one. And so that's the politician you should be looking at, okay? Senator Manchin, he's not running for re-election in this midterm, okay? It's going to be a couple years. So he's not at risk at this point. But there are some other politicians that are at risk, and you need to find out how they feel about certain bills, okay? One other thing that the Republicans have talked about, Senator Scott put this plan together, and he's the only politician on the Republican side that has put forward anything when it comes to a plan. And part of his plan, he wants to sunset Social Security after 5 years. So basically, every 5 years, you have to look at Social Security, see if it's viable, and then move forward. And Congress is going to have to vote on this. You can only imagine how crazy that would be. It's just like every year they talk about the budget. Okay, and we're going to start having budget talks in September, and you'll see exactly what I'm talking about. These politicians are going to go back and forth, back and forth. We're going to be facing a shutdown, and then they'll do a continued resolution for a couple months, and then they'll do the same thing, go back and forth, back and forth. We'll be looking at a shutdown again, and then they might do a continued resolution and pass it along for another couple months. They do the same thing every year. Could you imagine if they're doing that with Social Security every 5 years? That would be a disaster. And then what we would see is cuts to Social Security, because then they would start negotiating. Republicans and Democrats would have to start negotiating. And so the Democrats have to say, okay, well, we want Social Security. And Republicans say, okay, if you want Social Security, we're going to have to cut this and this and this. And that's what we would start seeing. That's what Senator Scott wants to do. Okay, sunset it every 5 years so they can discuss it, try to figure out. And it's not just Social Security. It's going to be Medicare. It's going to be all government programs. And so it would be an absolute disaster, but that's his plan. And so I just wanted to bring that to your attention. In the future, I'm going to start doing more videos where I'm talking about the midterm election. We're going to be talking about some of these senators that are either for Social Security reform or opposed to Social Security reform. And we can really talk about it. So it might be in your state. You might be able to vote for one of these senators, vote for them or vote against them. But I would not, if I were you, I would not just go into the ballot booth and just vote against everyone that's on the ticket. Because if you do that, you could be voting against someone who wants to do what you want to do. They want to expand Social Security. Or they want to do other things when it comes to some of these other programs. So you might be voting against that person, and they might lose, and now you have someone brand new that comes in. You don't even know what they want to do, or they could be the complete opposite. They could not want to do anything when it comes to expanding Social Security and other programs. So that's what I'm going to bring some more information out there when it comes to senators and how they feel about some of these different bills. If you guys have any questions, post them down below. If you like this video, please give me a thumbs up. Please subscribe for more, and I'll talk to you in the next one. Bye.